Shalom, giving all to Yahweh Bashem Al Shai Bashem Rakakudah Shalom to the 144,000 rest elect out there. Shalom to you all. I'm going to entitle this video, Woe to the World and Them That Dwell Therein. And the them I'm talking about are the Israelites and the other nations. The time of Jacob's trouble is also the time of Esau's trouble, and the time of the nation's trouble. It's going to be trouble for everybody. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. The bread riots. Let me find this. I'll call it the bread riots of Richmond, Virginia. Now this is going to show you that it's not, we always talk about a race war, it's going to be a class war. These Edomites are letting you know about the anger that they have for the government, how prices are going up, which prices are not going up. If you understood the money system, you would know that prices are not going up. The value of the dollar is going down, so you need more paper dollars to buy things. It's just the value of the money. It's losing its value. Then on top of that, you got a $38+ trillion debt, which in actuality you have closer to a $250 trillion debt. If you were to go into the debt clock and really understand it, 38 trillion, almost, another year it'll be 40. It's hitting 40 trillion, and it can never be paid for. So can you imagine trying to pay for a debt that's 250 trillion? And that debt is on you. Anytime the feds work with the Treasury, work with the president, whatever things that they go through, it's a Federal Reserve dollars, which is a private bank owned by private stockholders, mostly from Europe, some from America. So it's paper money. It's digital money. It's money it's fiat money. The government calls it money. Like if the government said, we're just going to use Visa credit cards, not MasterCard, not any other card, but the Visa. So you got to get the Visa. You have MasterCard. You have, what's the other one? The black card. They used to always send me, in the mail. I can't remember the name. But it's a black card. I believe that it could be under Visa too. But Visa is MasterCard, you can hardly ever see. But if they said that's if you don't have a MasterCard, a Visa rather, you can't buy anything. So anyway, the bottom line is this. If you understood money, the money system, the dollars that you have in your wallet, the paper dollars that you have in your wallet, which they're going to make obsolete, it's going to be outmoded. And the credit system, the Visa, the MasterCard, whatever you get, that's going to be outmoded as well. And it's going to be a credit system connected to a central bank that goes right to the government. Everything's going to be tracked, as I said, which ultimately is going to lead to 15-minute cities, which ultimately is you're going to be required to have a microchip. Like now, these guys that can't see it, maybe, like I said, I believe they're not stupid. General Yohanan is not stupid. He's a smart man. Bishop Nathaniel is not stupid. They're smart men. Okay, I knew them guys personally, but I say that they sold out because here it is 2026 and you can't see that the Revelation 13:16 is talking about an actual microchip. You can't see that. There's not a possibility that could happen. At least say it's a possibility. Bishop Nate was going through that last night. He's going through. He's sounding like a broken record. He's going through, which there's nothing wrong with that. You got to hit things home. We bring out a lot of prophecies, and that's what we do when we do our sit downs. You know, the past 3 Saturdays we've been doing. We be going into breakdowns because that's Ariah. He goes into break. He just goes into breakdowns. That's what he does. He over and over and over and go. Oh, we went through that. We went through Revelation 11 2 weeks ago. Why are we going through it again? Now I know why. Because you don't need a paper to pull out and say, oh, let me get my notes. It's already, the notes is in your head. Mental Rolodex. And so anyway, so it says here, and we were going through this last night, to show you that it's going to get so bad that they're going to neglect their own kind, which are the Edomites, which are so-called white people. They don't care about the children. The government doesn't give a fuck about you at this particular point in time. So it says here, I may even open this up. It says here, the bread riots rocked Richmond and changed women's, let me just read this. The bread riots of 1863, that was in the midst of, I got to go to that, somebody help me out. I know the Civil War took place in 61, 62, I believe 63. I got to go into that history. Which you have a term called antebellum South. Antebellum South means, when you look it up, it means before the Civil War. And the Civil War was about the Articles of Confederation. In other words, the South had a choice, the Southern states had a choice to join the Union or not join the Union. They said, we're not going to join the Union. So the Union, the 13 original colonies, they said, look, we're going to take your shit. We're going to take your slaves. And that's what they did. You Negroes were never free. You were just handed over. Emancipation means to hand over. Anyway, it says the bread riot of 1863 was an act that some historians believe lit an early fuse in the movement toward women's empowerment in America. And at one time, a woman couldn't vote. Only rich white men, white men, which were landowners, which were rich. Okay, it says here, when a group, okay, why did women riot and loot stores in Richmond? Now they'll do this with Jake. See what the Jakes are doing. See what these people didn't see Jake looting stores. Well, Edomite women back then, good Christian Edomite women, because they were fucking starving. Their kids were starving. When a group of hungry Richmond women took their complaints to Virginia Governor L.J. Latcher, he refused to see them. Why? Because he said, I can't help you. You know, you're on your own. And there was a time where cannibalism was heavy in the South too. Prior to, I got to go into that. That's a whole nother history. You might not even find it on Google. It says their anger turned into a street march and attacks on commercial establishment, you know, stores that sold bread or whatever. Only when troops were deployed and authorities threatened to fire on the mob of what? White women. Did the riots disperse? So they're saying, okay, you rob these stores, we're gonna shoot to kill. You loot these stores, we're gonna shoot to kill. That's a form of martial law. Why did women protest during the Richmond bread riots? Let's see what that says. Everything we do, we filter it right through the scriptures. History repeats itself. Okay, citizens, mostly women, began to protest the exorbitant price of bread. Did the price go up? No. The value of the dollar went down. That was a form of hyperinflation. That was hyperinflation. We're experiencing a thing called inflation. Okay, that's good. You good. You selling. Inflation, I can deal with that. What you can't deal with is hyperinflation. And because people don't study history, when it hits them, it's like, what the hell I'm going to do? If you knew history and if you knew money and you knew how government worked, you would see everything coming. And that's why we here at the prophets of the Most High, we're telling you. People don't scoff like they used to. They said everything we've said 10, 15, 17, 18 years ago, coming to pass right now. The protesters believe, which are white women, in action from the government. So they're saying the government could come in. The food stamps. Remember the thing with the close down of the government and the food stamps. Jake woman was going crazy too. And these Edomite women these Edomite men and these Edomite women are suffering too. And speculators were to blame. To show their displeasure, many protests turned to violence with riots, including robberies of... You ain't going to rob the bank to get money. You're going to rob stores to get the food. Robberies of grocery and merchandise stores happening on nearly a daily basis. They were losing it. Gerald Senenti, what does he say? When people have nothing else to lose, they lose it. What caused the bread price crisis? Excuse me. An urbanization and popularization group placed pressure on food supply. Poor harvest led to increased bread prices and resulted in public unrest. See, they don't make movies about this because it was a sad time in their history. What caused the bread riots in Richmond, Virginia in 1863? Food shortages in the South during the Civil War. Yep, because it was in the midst of Civil War. Kennedy was already, I think he got shot in 62. I got to go back to it. And he was the one that declared martial law. All right? So he wasn't a good guy. And he used to use the N-word a lot. And he was a Mo. It says food shortages in the South during the Civil War prompted working class women to riot in 1863. During the early spring of 1863 in Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. Right, because that was part of the original 13. Thousands of working class Southern women, white women, were struggling as their husbands were either off fighting the Civil War, right? Their husbands were dead, so their husbands couldn't provide. And that was sort of like a banker's war. There was a hatred between the U.S. president at that time and the international bankers, the Rothschilds, whatever name you want to give them, and that's why he got he got popped. He got pew-pewed, and he came back reincarnated as JFK, and he got pew-pewed again, and it was over U.S. dollar instead of a central dollar that was controlled by Europe. Okay, I don't want to go into this. What was the worst riot in the USA? Let's look at that. The title of the worst riot in USA history depends on the matrix, but the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. Now that's got to be the Black Wall Street, if I'm not mistaken, is often cited for its devastating racial violence and destruction, while the 1863 New York City draft riots, which was featured in the movie Gangs in New York. 1863 New York City draft riots, because they would have Irishmen and other Edomites come off the boat. Welcome to America, you're an American citizen. Now here's your rifle, go and fight. So that's what you want to get your citizenship. You're gonna have to go fight in this war. It says where the bloodiest race riots by death toll, with hundreds killed, mostly African Americans, mostly Africans, African, because they took it. They look at a nigga. They go, nigga, let's kill that nigga. In protest against the Civil War draft, other significant events, including, this is why they make movies about valor. You know, before there's a major war, they'll make this blockbuster movie. You know, they'll have these actors play, you know, they shot and they still fighting, to make you dummies go ahead and fight, to make you feel, yeah, I want to fight this war. Hey, with the thing with the building falling, they stirred on your emotions. And that's what they do, because you don't know what the fuck is going on. It's a Detroit riot, one of the deadliest urban riots, and the 1919 Red Summer riots, a nationwide wave of racial violence. Because that was hate, because they hated us. But remember, we can't hate them. According to the bishop, we can't hate them. He said that. I did a video on it. He said, hate is a harsh word. We don't hate nobody. We don't hate nobody. I said, this dude has been compromised. How many people died in the 1863 draft riots? It took federal troops to start restoring order to burning rubble-strewed Manhattan that Thursday, excuse me. The published death count was 119, but many New Yorkers believe the actual toll was hundreds more. If you go to Google and you type in, and I did this, a history of rebellions, world rebellions, you'll be there for the next 2 years reading all these rebellions. And rebellions was always the poor whose backs were pushed against a wall, that they took down the leadership, the government. What conclusion can you reach from the bread riots of Richmond, Virginia during the war? Food was scarce in the South. What conclusion can you reach from the bread riots of Richmond, Virginia during the war? Food was scarce in the South. An effect of the war was that the average person in the South struggled to meet his or her basic needs. You watch several YouTube videos where you got Edomites complaining about the energy, electric bill and so forth is doubling. It's going up. It's 50%. The food, everything. It's not like one thing is going up, like gas. Everything's going up across the board, and that's called inflation. That is called inflation. You're gonna really bitch when you experience a thing called hyperinflation. And there's a hedge against inflation. Okay, why did Marie Antoinette say, let them eat bread? It says, the quote conjures up Marie Antoinette, and they chopped her head off. They chopped the husband's head off, and then I believe it was the next day, I got to go back into the history, she had a white dress on, and when they brought her out, she was a hot mess. The next day, they chopped the husband, the guillotine, they used the guillotine, and it was in the public square. In a public square, I'm not going to go all into details, they condemned him, they put his head on the guillotine, the chopping block, and they chopped his head off, and she knew about it. And I believe it was the next day that they took her out she had the white dress on, I believe, and it was a hot mess. And she fought too, and they put her head under that thing and chopped the damn head off. That's when you had the second, what do you call it, revolution to establish a form of democracy. That was in 18. What was it? Was it 1787? I think it was 1787, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody help me out, you history buffs out there. The quote conjures up Maria Antoinette at her most extravagant. And look at the current government. They flaunt. They had a couple of months ago, right? They had a dinner. It was called the theme was the Great Gaps. I can't even say it. Gatsby. The Great Gatsby, which that's a book that came up, was a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. He was in the movie, and they showed this opulent lifestyle, the decadent lifestyle, and they dressed with the best stuff. They had maids serving them and stuff. So this guy Nero had a party, and it was themed Great Gatsby themed party. You go up in there, everybody was sitting down. You can see that they're bankers and rich people, and they were all Edomites. The only time you saw so-called black people was when they were serving drinks or serving food. And they played it on CNN and other channels, and they threw it right in your face. So this government doesn't give a fuck about you, and none of them do. In hard times, they don't give a fuck about you. It says, let me see, her most extravagant or her most naive, supposedly said when she was told the people had no bread. Miss Antoinette, there's no bread. The people have no bread. The line depicts a carefree queen who either thinks she wasn't too fucking smart either. She didn't know what was going on. The king that she was married to didn't know what was going on. They didn't even know how to have sex. They didn't even know how to have sex. Somebody had to teach them how to have sex. They were both naive. They have knots of this world should simply dine on lesser fare. In other words, make good with what you got. If you can't eat meat, eat beans and rice. Or that they should slack their hunger on party foods. But look at this. You know, this is this is not actually her. But look at that. Those pastries, those cakes, and she's sitting there. And they said, "Nah, their backs are against the wall." And that was called the French Revolution. And what did they do? They didn't lock them up. They chopped their heads off, and they clapped when the king's head was chopped off. They clapped, yay! Now we got to get this bitch. We're gonna get her the next day, or whatever the case may be. So they got her, and she was a hot mess. Put the fucking head under the guillotine, and whoop! Did Marie Antoinette say let them eat cake? What was the name of the leader of the bread riots? Why can I eat bread in France but not? Why can I eat bread in France but not America? Let's see what that says. North America primarily grows hard red wheat, which is higher in protein, 12 to 15. That's a lot of protein right there. And gluten strength. Europe tends to use more soft wheat, especially in France and Italy, which is lower in protein and produces lighter flour. Yeah, you can eat You can go to Italy, certain places in Italy, and eat the bread, you won't get fat. Eat the spaghetti, you won't get fat. America, you get fat. Okay, there's a starvation party. What was the starvation party in the Civil War? Titled "Social Life Enrichment During the War." When you have major wars, you suffer. The American people suffer. World War II. You couldn't get no butter. That's where the idea of margarine came from. Margarine is a fake butter made in the laboratory. And that shit'll kill you. Y'all, no Jakes, not one of you Jakes should be having margarine. If you're going to use something that tastes like butter, get the actual butter. Get organic butter. You guys still using margarine. That shit is, and seed oil. You got to stay away from seed oil. Some doctors say it's all right, nothing wrong with seed oil. Seed oil, when they heat up food, when they fry food, or use oil, they'll use seed oil, which is garbage. The article recalls that as the conflict progressed, entertainment became known as starvation parties, which would come to my mind, hunger wars. So you actually had a thing called hunger wars, at which neither food nor drink was served due to wartime shortages. Okay, the Confederate Army were the southern states. What was the biggest insurrection in U.S. history? Okay, let's look up the word insurrection. The biggest, what was the biggest insurrection in U.S. history? The title of biggest insurrection. And this is when the 7 women shall take hold of one man. This is when men is just going to take it. They ain't going to rap to them. Could I take you on the war? They're going to take it. They're going to take it, man. They're going to take it. So 7 women shall take hold of one man. A man shall be more precious than an Israelite man shall be more precious than fine gold. And that's actually talking about an Israelite man that knows he's an Israelite and he has this truth. The title of biggest insurrection depends on the criteria, but prominent or contenders include the 1811 German Coast Uprising, the largest slave revolt in U.S. history. What year was that? 1811. The largest slave revolt in U.S. history. You're going to have to pay for what you did to us. And you're going to have to pay dearly. You are going to get a pound of flesh taken from you. You are going into captivity. This is what you devils are afraid of. Every last one of you, from the super rich to the average Edomite. Don't be listening to these knuckleheads, the Genesis. All they do, they're apologists for other nations, mainly Edomites. They're going into scriptures, they're breaking the scriptures down the wrong way. They'll go to John 4 about the woman at the well. The woman at the well was a heathen, man. And Yahweh Shai cursed her ass out. He said, bitch, you ain't one of us. It says the New York draft riots of 1863, massive civil unrest. Is that happening now? Unrest during the Civil War, the Battle of Blair Mountain, 1921, the largest labor uprising, and the 1898, Wilmington insurrection, a successful coup d'etat by white supremacists. Oh, do you know there's still white supremacists? There's KKK people, there's white supremacists, neo-Nazi party, all these different groups. You don't believe me? Go to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Nero's not going after none of them. He's just going after Jake. He's just going after Jake, man. This thing is coming to a head. How many Negroes died in the Civil War? Wow, 40,000. I'm not going to read all that. How much damage did BLM riots do? And who controls BLM? Black Lives Matter, Edomites. In certain jail, it was 3 Jake women. That was set up. Let me look at this. What general died in 1863? Stonewall Jackson. Okay, remember that devil. What was the most violent protest in U.S. history? What was the most violent protest in U.S. history? The beating of Rodney King. Okay, wow, yeah, yep. We were going through that last night. They said they set 3,000 fires. And I told Pastor Gabar, I think he said, I said nope. I said it was the government. They had the black helicopters and they were dropping incendiary devices on top of buildings. So they were behind pushing that war. Auto ab KO. Hegelian dialectics, whatever you want to call it. The beating of Rodney King by Los Angeles police officers and their subsequent acquittal. Yeah, but it's on film. I said, how film doesn't lie. They don't lie. Films don't lie. Recordings do not lie. It's right there before you. Oh, on technicality, oh, he was trying to reach at one of them. No, he was trying to get the fuck out of there, man. So when they saw it, all hell broke loose. They said on charges of assault with a deadly weapon and aggressive use of force triggered the Los Angeles riots in 1992, which is still considered the worst race riots in American history. Now, them Jake out there in the West Coast, they don't play. They don't play, man. They do not play. But you got Hakar talking about, oh, white people can make it. Yeah, they're going to make it all right. They're going to make it into slavery. They're going to make it into some handcuffs, some shackles, some yokes on their neck. Oh, we're going to treat them bad. And he's saying, you know, not all of them is going into slavery. Some of them are going to be vassals. Which you're going to have levels of captivity, slavery. You're going to have the overlords, which represent us, which are us. And then you're going to have vassals, which you're going to have other nations working to make money for us. Just like the Roman Empire. And then you have the serfs, the bottom people. Esau is going to be one of the nations that's going to be on the bottom, but they're all going to be on the bottom. If we want to kick them in the ass, we can kick them in the ass. That's why Edomites be rolling up on different camps and they go in the scripture, well, it says the Gentiles and Cornelius was not an Israelite, and then you got to explain it to them. That's called wishful thinking. Okay, who prevented the Union Army from capturing Richmond? Why did slavery develop in Virginia? Let's look that up. Remember, we were working, and they're not talking forget about Nero talking about reparation. You ain't gonna get reparations. You're not gonna get reparations. You better be happy that he gives you food stamps. EBT. These are the Israelites. These are the Israelites right here. They're coming up against the Israelites. So why did slavery develop in Virginia? Virginia plantations developed the commodity crop of tobacco as their chief export. It was a labor-intensive crop, and demand for it in England and Europe led to an increase in the importation of African slaves in the colony. They have to pay for it. I don't care how many of you Jake say, well, the white man really did. And that was their foreparents. I can understand the Edomite coming up against what we're saying because they're concerned. But a fucking Jake, that's why we don't give a fuck about him. Anyway, let me do this. Let me just go ahead and read this. All come to mind when we're reading these, reading this stuff. Now I really want to read the whole chapter of Second Ezra chapter 15 and 16, and then read 14. 13 rather, 13. So it says 14 verses. Second Ezra chapter 15 verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. That's talking about this world, and it's talking about now. It's going to get, we're in Jacob's trouble, if they didn't go up there and tell you, but it's going to get worse. It's going to escalate. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up against and fight against another, and swords in their hands. A modern day sword is a gun. For there shall be sedition. What is sedition? Sedition is when you have people that egg on a war to get the people, he's a leader, and he gets the people to come against the government. That's sedition. And you can be killed for that. You know, the penalty could be death. Now, you didn't pick up a sword. You just used certain words to get the people riled up. And that's what Nero did. 2021, January 6th, he did that. He's guilty or should have been charged of sedition, because he told them, okay, that's it, boys, you can go home. And then the ones that got locked up, what did he do? He what's the word? He commuted their sentence. You know, I can't think of the damn word, but he pardoned them. All of them. There was some that you clearly see that they were fucking up them guards and wouldn't stop busting in windows, and he said they all pardoned. So he's biased. He's definitely biased, man. And we say, you first heard it from GMS, first heard it from myself, really, that this guy is Nero. This guy is definitely Nero coming back. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings, government leaders, and princes, presidents, governors, mayors. And then you got certain governors and even mayors that are coming against the federal government. And the course of their, you heard about seceding from the nation, from the U.S. Texas been saying that for years. Texas, certain other Midwestern states, they don't want to have nothing to do with the United States anymore. They want to create their own country. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. The course of whose actions? The people. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled. Jacob's trouble. The houses shall be destroyed. So you got to have an armed house. And men shall be afraid. So we're coming to that time right now. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, the gun, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. The bread riots of Richmond, Virginia, right? 1863. When the women went to loot those stores, the governor, he sent out troops, and they said, look, if you loot a store, we're shooting to kill. If you steal a loaf of bread, you're going to get killed. And they said that to white women. Because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation, also Jacob's trouble. These women are feeling the pinch. They're feeling it right now because men don't even want to talk to them. But there's going to be a time where men are just going to take you. They're not going to rap. They're just going to see you look good. They're going to take you, and you better be with a man. You know, y'all better get tough. A woman's going to be forced to go back to their nature, their feminine nature, especially you black women. Nobody wants a black woman anyway. You're looking for the Latino woman. Oh, we're going to have women. Oh, the woman. We're going to have women. And before the kingdom comes, stop listening to Bishop Nate talking about, Isaiah 4:1 is talking about in the kingdom. Oh, so our wives are gonna be working in the kingdom? No. Isaiah 41 is a continuation of Isaiah 3. It should have been a part of Isaiah 3. Even Deacon Ethan said that. So what's going on here? It said, behold, saith the Most High, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me. They're going to reverence the Lord through us. We're going to force them to reverence the Lord, which are from the rising of the sun, which is the east, from the south, from the east, from Libanus. I got to look that up again. To turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. Because the Most High is after, not just after Esau, he's after all the nations. Like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, which are the Israelites. So, which represents all the Israelites in a bigger sense, in a macro sense. So will I do also, and recompense in their bosoms. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, my right hand shall not spare the sinners. And that's Amos 9. The sinners is talking about Israelites. And my sword shall, anyone that's joined to them, Isaiah 13, shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. Everything that you Edomites did through the course of history, you're going to have to, all that's on record, and you're going to have to pay for it. This is called a reversal of power. The fire is gone forth from his wrath and have consumed the foundation of the earth, and the sinners like the straw that is kindled. You take a fire and put it to some straw, it's going to go poof. Woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, saith the Yahweh. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power. Defile not thy sanctuary. So it goes on and on. For Yahweh knoweth all them that sin against him, and they all what you sin to when you talk bad about the Israelites. I can understand Edomites coming up against us, but I can't understand a Jake coming up against us, man. So all of you that had something negative, that scoffed, that had something negative to say about Israelites on TikTok, on YouTube, every last one of you are going to starve and you're going to die. Or you might be preserved to the missiles and eat a warhead. Right? This is when the Arabs and the Iranians get together. Right here. 28, 29 verse. Carmenians are people of Iran, which are, matter of fact, I'm going to do this. Let me do this here. Come over here. See, the so-called black church is not going through this. They're not talking about civil war and the lack of bread, and they're not going into the Apocrypha. Although you got a lot of Christian Edomites that are starting to read from the Apocrypha now. They might not tell you that, but they read from the Apocrypha. All you got to do is go to Bible Hub. A lot of times they'll make mention of the Apocrypha. They'll give you chapter and verse. Okay, give me a second here. Carmenian meaning. Give it a second. Carmenians are the ancient warlike inhabitants of Carmenia, a region in South Persia. They're the Persians, modern day Carmen or Iran, along the Persian Gulf, known as Fierce Biblical Training Organization. They are mentioned in 2nd Ezra. So, Google 2nd Ezra 15 verse 30 as having costumes similar to the Medes and the Persians. Well, they are Persians. They are often described as raging in wrath as wild boars of the wood and practice unique. She's not giving you all this information. Okay, here it is. This is what I want. This is what I want. Because I went through this, okay, biblical encyclopedia of the Bible. Carmenia. Let's try this. I already know what it is, but I'm just backing it up with documentation. And we're not going to be here for another 1,000 years. This thing is counting down to months. We're months away from, I believe, from the MOTB. Okay, that's all they're going to give me. Let me try this. That's all I get. Okay, give me a second. Okay. There's a encyclopedia, Armenian encyclopedia of Iran, the inhabitants of Carmenia occurring in the Bible. 2nd Ezra, so Esau knows where the Carmenians were predicted as the ravagers of Assyria. Assyria is America. I can't find this Persia. See? Did I look at this already? Give me a second. Let me do this again. Okay, it's the same thing. I don't want that. Let's look up the encyclopedia. Okay, it says it again. Persia. But they had an actual encyclopedia. And this proves to you that, okay, there it is, right there. Encyclopedia Iranica. The Encyclopedia, Encyclopedia of Iran. Carmania. This proves that the Apocrypha is part of the divine books. You got 66 books in the Old and New Testament, then you got another 14 books in the Apocrypha, in the form of the Apocrypha. So we talk about 66, 76. We're talking about 80 books, if my math is correct. Carmenia. This is the Encyclopedia of Iranica, Carmenia region east of Fars. By the way, that's the language that they speak. They don't speak Arabic. They're Islamic. Their religion is Islamic, but they do not speak Arabic. They speak a language called Farsi. Fars province, approximately equivalent to modern Carmen, that's where you get the word Carmenian, the old Persian from Carmen, Carmina, Carmana, rendered as, oh, I didn't know this, rendered as Elamite. Elamite. That's their biblical name. That proves that the Persians are descended from the Elamites. Elamites. I'm surprised this came up. And there's a scripture that mentions Elam and India in the same sentence. So the people of Iran, are not Ishmaelites. They're not Arabs. They're Elamites. Here it is. This is from their own source. So y'all got that, right? Everything we do, we filter it. It doesn't make any sense for somebody to be a Christian and watch a Hebrew Israelite video and talk shit about the Hebrew Israelites. You're dealing with low IQ people. The black church, you got a bunch of low IQ people in the church. People with doctorate degrees, they don't be going to church like that. They'll probably go to church for a marriage, a funeral, or something like that, or, special occasion, because their daughter's getting confirmation if it's Roman Catholic or whatever. But highly educated people do not go to church. That's a topic right there. It's stupid people that go to these churches, especially the black church. Especially the black church. Let me go over here. Okay. Common sense. You gotta watch this. This dude be cracking me up. The common sense ninja. They be showing them snow bunnies and them linglings. That's all he. These are other nations, man. Right? This is a lingling. This is a Moabite. Look at that. Look at that. Look like a Dominican. He calls them linglings. You got the snow bunnies and you got the linglings. Now this is a woman, I think she said she'd pay for all the bills. I'll get with that woman. She paying my bills. I'll get with her. Oh yeah. My arms will be open for you. You willing to pay the bills? All I got to do is treat you right. I said, bring it on, baby. Let me stop. Okay, someone like your comment. I can tell he's Jake just by the way he dresses. That's what this is all about. I'll come back to that. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me do this. See what this is all about. Let me see what this is all about. Fair use, fair use.
Yeah. Just like you. Make me call my homie on the phone like there's something new out that got me in the zone.
Jake.
Just that feeling
right
got me. I wish me.
Jake right there. Anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, I gotta watch this. Yeah, the black woman, she's not looking too good. She hasn't looked good in years. Figuratively and literally, the black woman chicken have come home to roost. Because them Edomites, they love Jake. The Latin tribes and Jake. African diasporas, how the UK forced out the entire indigenous people of Chagos Islands to build a military base. That's what they do. That's what they do. They do. That's because the power is in their hands. The McDonald's are giving away food. You couldn't pay me to eat McDonald's. that these devils are being revealed now. The skirts have come up into their faces. Okay, now you got a fast spreading outbreak in U.S. and a deadly virus abroad. You know what that means. People ain't gonna fall for that shit. Oh, you gotta watch her, Alexa. 8 things women say that reveal a high body count. Yeah, you can know. You can know a woman with a high body count. Just seeing what the hell's going on. Okay, so you got Romans 144, Joseph, Mary, and marriage customs, as the scriptures has said. Anybody want to watch that one? Ain't nobody put up no videos in Israel. Anyway, I'm going to say shalom, on to the next. Shalom.